Hey y'all, I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick texturing for a gun, this gun in fact, that I was asked to do by a friend. So I'm just going to do a really quick one, and I figured since I'm doing it, might as well record it and I'll post it. And it's been a while, I realize, but I'm just trying to see if I can catch up. And if you have any requests, please post them and let me know, and I will do more stuff as I can. All right, so this is the thing. It's called a arms something or other. Here, let me move it. It's called a Henry Mayer's pistol. It's actually a pistol. It's a .357 Magnum. It's crazy. Look it up. It's cool. Anyway, I've already built it. Part of it he actually did build, but this is the one that I built. I've unwrapped it. The unwrap looks like this. It's pretty simple. I'd like to put my unwraps into sections, so if we look at this section here is going to be all the cast iron or the wrought iron. This will be the brass area, and then this stuff over here is the wood. So it just keeps it really simple for me. If I was going to do a higher res one, I'd use multiple textures. If I was going to do if I was going to do a hero object out of this, which this is not, I would again use higher res textures. I've also used mirror, so we're only seeing half of the texture on this, except for up here on this big brass plate, because on different sides there's different things. There's a holster thing for your horse, and then there's the load and other areas. So and I didn't actually put any geometry for this stuff or any of these other things, which I normally would do. If I had time, I'd go back in and actually make a high-res one so I could get the bake straight off of this. But this is another thing that's missing. This is where you can load in some of your bullets. Okay, let's just get the basics of it done. All right, so how I work is usually I'll make folders, but what I like to do is just do a standard fill on something, which is already right here, right? But I'm going to take that one out, and I'm going to call this, we'll start with the brass, and then I will do a, actually, you know what? You just come over to these. We'll do it this way. We can start with these. Let me get rid of this. One of the things I used to say, and I just remembered, so excuse me if I'm a little rusty, but what we need to do is bake it. First thing we got to do is bake our weapon, because if we don't bake it, and since I don't have a high res, I'm going to leave it blank and just say bake. I'm going to check and make sure that it's doing all the things I want. I like to have height sometimes, and we could probably do bent normals and stuff, but I'll just bake it the way it is. It'll take a couple seconds here, and there we go. It's like a grand. It's actually 22 or 2300 verts or tries. So come back out of here. Now whenever I do any work on it, it'll actually work correctly. It's already building it up a little bit more. I'm going to go find in here. I'll just put this down here like it used to be defaulted to. I will look for a smart material and come on here. I don't want to use gold. I want to use brass. This is bronze. They don't really have a brass in here, but I think they have a brass in here. They used to. I'm sorry, I haven't opened this in a while, but they're stylized. Raw metal. Interesting. Okay. Polished metal. It's very interesting that they're yellow. Again, it's been a couple minutes since I've been in here. We'll just change it to copper or bronze. Looks a little bit... Yeah, we'll just use bronze. I'm going to throw bronze on there. And then I'm going to throw some wood. Let me find some decent wood. I used to have my own, and I'll probably bring my own library back up eventually. But let's see. We'll just do this walnut for now. And hide that. Let's see, there's the walnut. And then we're going to do steel gun metal, probably. So I'll put this up there, like that. Okay. And there it is. All right, so now what I'll do usually is I come in here and I go G for a folder, and I'll name this steel. Or it probably should be iron if I have an iron. Old. I can see which one I like better. We'll throw it in there. I mean, the tile's too fat, but we'll deal with that. Then I'll come in here to the bronze one. If I push Control G, it'll make a folder for me. I'll have to go down to the folder button. It's just like Photoshop in that way. And then I'll say bronze, or I'll say brass. I'm gonna hide that one, and I'll come down here and Control G and say wood. Now, you got to keep your stuff separated, and one of the reasons I like to separate it into folders is that way I'm not even going to worry about the way it's facing and all the other stuff that drives me nuts if you've listened to me before. But you have to make sure the folders will allow us to put a master where this material is going to be mask on here. So I'll just add either you can go black or white. I'll just start with a white. I'm going to look at my pictures on this side over here. I'm going to move them over here so I can see what I'm doing. Always get your reference. Okay. I'm going to take this and go, okay, so we know that the wood, in this case, is only in certain areas. And there's a few ways you could do that. The way I like to do it mostly, usually in the beginning, is with this polygon fill. Because since I've broken this into decent polygon selections, I can do that, and I can even go to here, which will allow me to UV chunk fill. And what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to go ahead and remove this mask. Okay, and then I'm going to add a white one because it may be, or a black one. It may be easier to add the ones we don't have because the wood's less. So I'll come back over here, and I'm on this section, and if I select this, it should just select the wood all the way around because it's selecting. If we look at the F1, this is what it's selecting. I could do it in here, I can do it in there. There's another piece right here, and it'll select just that, and there's the wood. And then there's another piece right here. And that's all the wood for this, okay? And then I'll come back to the brass, and I'll do the same thing for brass. Brass is probably going to be just as easy, so I'll do another white or black mask, and I'll just select this, and most of this. That's all the brass, which is, let me come in here to the brass real quick, or the bronze and what it is, and take a look at what we have. The base metal, I want to make it lighter, so I'm going to pull this a little bit brighter so we can see it better. So at least it looks closer to brass. It's still a little orange, so let's put a little bit more yellow in there. There, that's a little bit better. Okay, don't worry about all the scuff marks and stuff. We'll have to come back to that. I'm just trying to get some base colors laid down in here. All right, so now all I have is the steel. I'll turn that back on, put a mask on it, make it black, and then come back into here and pretty much just grab all this stuff down here. And I think I got that one. All right, so now if I go back out to F2 and I start looking at it with the paint, we've already kind of got a decent looking setup. Now, obviously we don't have all the detail pieces or any of that stuff. And obviously, and the other thing to point out is I think we're looking at both the iron and the steel. Let's see what we like better. I kind of like the steel. The one I'm looking at is obviously new, but I think I'll stick with the steel. So I'm going to take the iron forged old. Yeah, I'll just take this out. All right, so it's steel, and it's done a pretty decent job. I have a little bit of a line right here, which we can paint out. It's actually scaled pretty decently too. We can come in here and see how they did the steel. The sharpen, usually what I'll do is I'll turn them off. So the sharpen is right there. Let me pull this up here. And it will sharpen the edges and make them brighter, which I like, but then as you can see, there's a problem right here. So let's see what the sharpen is based off of. And it's based off of sharpness intensity, and you know, it's just going to take those edges. So we could do a couple things. We could come in here and do another white mask this time. White. And then we can take our brush and paint, make sure we're painting in black. Oh, we need a paint layer. We need to add a paint layer. There we go. And let's see, are we painting black or white? Once you know, by the way, X will flip these two, so it's black. And I'll come in here and just do this, and I'll get rid of some of these really quickly. Some of these weird edges that are showing up because of the mirror, basically, is what's doing this. Sorry, my hands are also not used to. You can see I haven't even set up my pens very well yet. But my hands are not used, or my hands are still fighting from working in another program. So if I get a little chunky, that's why. Actually, I don't mind it on that. I'm going to come back. I'll leave it on the barrel, but I'm going to take it off the top of this flat piece. And then also we'll come back to the front where we saw it before. F is the shortcut to look at the gun. And we'll come in here. And we'll just get rid of this. All I'm doing is telling the computer not to see these edges where it's a mirrored edge on the UVs as a place to do a sharpened edge on. Okay. Oops. What program am I in today? Okay. All right. So then I'll come to here, do this, and take a look at this one. Probably get rid of this one too. All right. Turn it sideways. I can't remember what day I'm on. Okay, there we go. So I've got the metal pretty good. I mean, obviously it's just the base metal. Really what I should do is come in here and let's do this. Let's put the brass above the steel. It won't matter until right now, because what I'm going to do inside of the brass, I'll go back to, hi mouse, you're going to work with me today. The brass mask. Oh yeah, go back into this one. And what I want is this tip right here. So if I want to turn this off now to be just polygons, and take this tip right there and make it that nice brass look that they have going on. And we could even tell it in the other side of it to do it this way and come in here and say negative by pushing X. Again, we'll just switch. And we'll come on to the side here and make sure we don't get any extra bump map or anything crazy going on. Okay, back to the brass. So I'll take this and I'll go to the steel, and inside the steel I'm going to take a look at that. That's fine. Let's go back to brass. I'm sorry. All right, so some of the brass stuff is probably a little bit too big. So there's a few things we can do. We can just take everything off real quick and just take a look at this. And we can see that it's okay, but really what I would start with is just tiling it a little bit more. It's already tiled by 6. Let's do tile by 10. Let's see if we can get anything better. And then we'll come to the finish and change the scale of that. Let's see what we're getting. That's not too bad. It was at 6. It was at 4. And then we'll go to the fill and see if I change this to what we get. Nothing. Okay. Let's see if we turn this off. And what if we turn this off? Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to come here. The roughness is right there. Oh, it's using a grunge map. So, interestingly, there we go. I don't know why I didn't really. Probably take this balance, turn it down a little bit. We'll turn this back on. And it depends on how new or how you want it to look. Now, what I normally sometimes would do, I should say, is put a beveled edge around a whole thing, but for now I want to keep it pretty low for this guy. And we'll take a look at this. See how much I don't like it. I do not like it. So I'll take that off, take this off, put that on. That's not horrible, but then we can come back into this and turn it down like that. Now, you know what? I'm going to come to here and I'm going to pull it out a little bit. And then we'll take the pattern, play with that. It's interesting how they, oh, it's this custom grunge again. Let's take, there we go. Kind of like that. It's not too bad. Okay, and we'll come back to the wood now. So I'm going to hide this one and look at my wood. And if I did the wood correctly, which I may not have, it looks like I didn't. So what we're seeing in this wood is it's vertical and horizontal. Smarter me would have made the unwrap correct. So if we look at the unwrap, it's because this one right here is getting the vertical of the wood set up. So there's a couple things we could do. We could go back into Max, in my case, and mess with the UVs, or we could just fake it here. And how do we fake it here? We make 2 of these and do a, is it Control D in here? Yeah. And then we make a mask for this one. We'll say a white mask. And then we'll come to we'll come to figuring it out where this is. So, all right, so looking at the wood, I can already tell that I have some problems with the turnaround, and the UV unwrapping and stuff. See how these are verticals, and then this is the correct way. Over here, it should be following the grain or the direction of the butt. Okay, so I can already tell by looking at my wood unwrap that I've done it wrong. Now these pieces up here, which you can't even see my cursor, but it's up there. It's pointing at the handle and everything up here. Is going upwards, where the correct way should be something closer to this. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, and I don't necessarily want them to match, but I do want them to feel like this is built the right way. We can go into why wood grain needs to be in the right direction, but basically anything that when they build wood, or when they build furniture or anything with wood, they generally want to go with the strongest direction. If the force is going to be coming from up down here, we want to make sure that it's going against the grain. That makes it stronger. So this would not be the best way to have the wood. Now it can vary, but I don't like seeing the vertical like this. This is just kind of wrong. So I can do 2 things. I can either go in there, make a second wood layer, and try and turn the UVs inside of here, or I can go into Max and take a look at the UVs in there. And you can see the UVs are incorrect. So let me go into Max real quick and fix the 2 UVs that are broken, these 2. So if I open up Max, we can see it's right here. We know it's this one and this one. Now, it may be a little bit of a dance to get these to work correctly, but we can do it. I have faith. So if I do a quick 90-degree angle turn on this, and then maybe move this up. Actually, I'll take this one and move it down. This one, move it all the way up. That will give us the room we need. And then I'll take this one and do the same thing and just rotate it. Okay. Move this over a little bit. That means we're going to have to rebake it, but that's fine. I didn't add any vertices. I didn't add any extra stuff to it. So if I take this out, and then I can just collapse it real quick, Max, and then export it to where I've been putting it, which is just going to be over the top of the old one, my gun 6, save, there we go. Okay. Once it's done, I go back to Painter. Sorry if I'm a little stuttery, I haven't done this in a long time, so I'll go back to F2 so I can just see the gun. And then I'm going to come up to, instead of restarting over everything, I'm not even going to save the material. I'm just going to come up here and go project configuration and say select, and then say my gun. Bam. Okay. Say okay. And you'll see that it comes in. Now, the big problem we see, obviously, is since I moved all those objects, the unwrap is now not correctly based off of what we're getting for the bake. So we have to go rebake this real quick. Everything else should be fine. We'll just come in here, do a quick bake selected textures. And then we can come back out. And now everything's back to normal. And as we can see, they're all facing the correct direction. Whether I like this wood or not, I'm not really going to go into building a new wood thing at this point, or finding a new wood one. There are free ones you can get if you own the program. But for now, we'll just leave it the way it is and take a look at, see what wood textures do I have that I might like. Let me see, wood plane, meh. If I'm selecting this, I can just hide this one for right now. Hide this one. Yeah, apparently I was setting this up to be done twice, so I can delete this layer, turn this back on, and they're all the same way. But if I come in here and I look at wood plane, let's see what that looks like. It's obviously going the wrong direction, but that's an easier one to fix. I kind of like this one better. I can change the color of it, probably. It's, again, it looks like maybe I can't. I can maybe pick one of their presets. There, I think I like that better. It's closer to what we get, what they talk about with that gun. So obviously it's going everywhere. So one of the things I need to do is come back in here and do a mask. And we'll do black to make our lives easier so it's not going through these pieces too. I'm gonna make this bigger just so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, and then I'm gonna come down to here, and then I'm gonna click on this one. Oh, I might as well do this actually. We come to F1. And I'm on black, that's why. There we go. Bam. Okay. Come back out. See what we get. Now, I could go back into max and turn the material, or turn the UV so they're facing the other direction, or I can just mess with it in here. And I'm going to go ahead and mess with it in here. It's easy enough to do in here in this case, right? Because the angle is right here, so if I just change it by 90 degrees, like that, or it should be, oh, is that my brush? Oops. Let me come to this instead of my other. There we go. I wasn't doing it on the texture, so we'll do 90 for this. And there we go. And that's a little bit better. Obviously, it's not perfect, but I'm not real crazy about this either. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, I don't like where that is. So what we can do, since it's only one texture at this point, we can turn this back on and change this to an overlay and see if we like that any better too. Not really. Actually, maybe the other way around might work better. You have to remember these textures are like Photoshop, so if we come in here and go overlay, now I get that. And then I still have this problem with the grain going everywhere, but yeah, I'm just going to keep it with this. It's simple. Okay, so if I don't like this placement, I can, again, go back into max and move it around, or I can duplicate this layer like that, which obviously makes it darker, which I don't really like, but that's fine. And then what I would do to this mask is I would come back in here and I would turn this to black and change this one so it's out. And then I would come up to this one and change this one and this one. So basically, if you look at my mask, you would see that it's only white on this one. And if you look at the mask from below and we just look at the mask, it's only black or only white on these two. So they're not using the same material for the overlay. So I'll come back up here and now I can mess with the material. I can see if I can find a better place for it. I can tile it maybe some more. I can change this and just move it like, let's just, something like that maybe better. Yeah, I just wanted something a little bit more consistent, and I can even lower it a little bit. You know, or I could do it inside of the map. Again, we can go to F1, come over here and figure out, by just moving it, all I'm doing by doing this is moving the materials around. So there we go. It's a little bit better. If I'm going to keep this all beat up like it is, I probably should do something for the wood too. But for now, there's a basic layout. Now, some of the things we'll notice from the gun, and some of the things we'll notice on the gun is it has a bunch of little detail pieces like this, and then of course this up here, and then it says something on the other side. So what we need to do is find a way to put these in here without not making them part of the same UV set. If I look at the UVs on this, let's do F1. There's no way that I'm going to get a decent writing out of this stuff. So what I need to do is go back and do what's called decal system. And decal system is a new term for an old base technology. It doesn't mean that the way they do it with the real decals doesn't work better or interestingly or more applicable or more widespread use of them. But it does mean that the same kind of thing. It's just a lot more detailed as we go into it. But I'm just going to show you the simplest way to think of it. Okay. So with that, I'll jump into Max real quick. Here, And what I want, I'm just going to try and get that text on here real simple. It's just the one side. But what I want is this text right here to have that. I want to give this more space for the UVs. I don't have a lot of space. So what I'm going to do is go W, for me, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Max here. I'm going to duplicate this plane that's right on top of it, just like that. I'm just going to duplicate it. I'm going to keep it as part of the same object. So if I look at it, I'm still selecting the same object. If I click off of it, nothing selected, I click on, there it is. It's very low. It depends on your engine, and I don't know if it got out how it works with it, but there we go. Anyway, so I'll move it back a little bit, and I've done this in other videos. I'm trying to do this simply here. And then the next thing to do is just go into Photoshop and write out a special material for it. Well, let me go into Material Editor first. And just open that up. And then here's the materials we use. I use this brass one to also help me figure out where everything was when I was laying it out. But it's really just a dead material. I can delete it now. This is the only one I'm really using, and that's why I still name gunmetal. Really, I should name it something different, but I'm not going to go through that right now because it'll change the way it imports into Painter. So I'm going to come into General, and I'm going to come into Materials and go down here and change this to decals. For me, it's what I usually do. Actually, I would probably say gun decals, just so I have it reference to what decals if I see the material. And then I'm going to attach that material by selecting just this face here. Grab that face, make sure, there we go, 4. Grab that and just throw this material onto that face. So if I unselect it, you'll see it's now white because it's a white material. And if I change this color, we can check and see it's yellow or whatever it needs to be. Or black, or anyway, let's come back down to white. Okay, so now I have a new material that's set onto this. Now I just need to unwrap that material, add a new material and unwrap it to it really quick. I already kind of did some of this, so I'll go into Photoshop real quick, and here it is. Here I just used Times New Roman, and I put it up here at the top. And the reason I'm using the whole texture size here is because this will also give me room for other decals if I want to do that later. And maybe I'll do that and then speed it up at the end here. But the two things I want possibly this one, and I do, and I'll explain why. If you look at this as, let me do it this way. Let me come in here and do a G, X, and of course. So I want a white and black one, and let me go ahead and put this in a layer. Put these two in a layer. And I want a black and white one. So I want them the opposite versions. And then I'm just going to take this. I set it to a tiling texture of 2048, just like the rest of the textures are right now. And I'm going to change this one and save this white text on black background as text alpha. And then I'm going to change this one and save this one as text. Okay? And probably should have been gun and all that stuff too. After that's done, all I have to do is go into Photoshop, and for now, it really doesn't matter if I'm sorry, 3 Studio. It doesn't really matter if I do it in here, but it I do need to show it in here at least so I can unwrap it correctly. So I'll come here and say General, Bitmap, and go to text. I'll use the white on black. And then it should show up, but it's probably not unwrapped correctly. So let's get out of here and go to Unwrap UVW and say Open. And then in here in Max, anyway, you have two IDs. Every time I make a new material, it's called another ID. And I'll just go down to Gun Decals, and I'll look if I can see the Gun Decals. And you can see this is where it is, because I just made it. So it's all the way down here at the bottom. Max is an easy way to do it, however way you want to do it, whatever program you work on. I just say Pack UVs, it'll extend it to the size, biggest size it can be. And then I'll just move it up here and make sure it's where I want it and it's not upside down, so I can turn it over. And then move it up a little bit maybe. And even if I want to tile it, I can move it over that way. That's a little much. I could scale it since it's, I've got a little bit of space. Anyway, so now I've got this laid out correctly. All right, and I can collapse it. That's not what I wanted. That's for sure not what I wanted. Class converted to poly. Export. My gun 7. I already did this, as you can see. So I was testing, doing some old brain shaking the cobwebs out. Come back into Painter, and then I would just do that same thing, project configuration, and then I would change it to be my gun open, and say okay. And everything stayed the same, except now I have this new white plane that's sitting on there. If I come up here now, you'll see that originally I named it decals, but since I decided to change it in my wisdom for this part of the video, it's now gun decal. So ignore this one. This is from when I was testing stuff out. But these two, now it's added two materials to it. Painter knows how to add materials really easy. It has a hard time removing materials that are no longer being used. So that's why that's there. Anyway, the next thing I need to do is come in here and change the material it's using, because I'm going to use alpha channels, and Painter doesn't have alpha channels by default. So I got to make my own. I got to change the shader it's using, so the shader it's using has alpha channels. Super easy to do. Just come inside of here, and you can actually make more than one material. I go into the shader settings, I change it to metal rough, and then I come down to PBR metal with alpha blending, and I click on it and I close it. And that's it. It didn't change anything. It looks the same. Everything's good. But what I want to do is go to the other material now. So I'm going to come over to the gun decals. And you can see there's nothing in here but that white texture. And I can probably get rid of this now. Okay. So I've tried a few things that just to test it out and just to make it easier for you. I'm not going to fight with materials that are pre-made and colors and stuff. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to drag a fill in here. I'm going to change this to close to that yellow color. I probably could drop this one on here, which is brass, but I'll just fake it for now. Come up here to be like this brass, and I'll just match it to the screen, more or less. Even though I think it looks more painted, so it could be a little bit off. I'm going to do darker and then pull it some more reds, maybe. Something like, it's still not red enough. Probably not dark enough. Too red. And this is our life, doing these little changes to red. Okay, and I could even do an eyedropper on this, and that's fine. I don't need to for now. Okay, so now I've got this color set, but I still don't have an opacity thing. So what's the dealio? Well, let's first do this. Let's add this color. Let's do the correct. We've got the color down. We don't have the height information, which actually will be easier once I do the next part. So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to look at the shader as it's built by default. It's got a base, a metallic, a rough, normal, and a height. I'm going to add an opacity. Now remember, opacity is only showing up because I have the new shader on here. If I went to the left it on the old shader and looked in here, I would not see opacity. So just so you understand. Now, if I look over my material, my texture, I see opacity. So I can click on that. And apparently, I've already put the materials in. Dagnabbit, there we go. So now I've made those two textures. So I come back over here, and I can either do drop them back in. One of them I made in alpha. And if I search text, and you can see it's probably this one right here, text alpha, I'll throw it on the opacity, and bam, now I've got my repeating all set up. And I can do this, and you can see that it's okay. If I change the roughness to something higher, it'll probably be a little bit nicer. Okay, so I still don't have it like carved in. If you remember how this was carved in, it's into the letters there. So and it's definitely in the wrong font, but that's fine. So what I need is a height information map. And to get that, if I do text, let me try this again, text. Am I not in textures? There it is, alpha. If I go to text, and I drag this into the height information, suddenly it is pushed back in space because I used the black, right? So it's going to push it back as far as it can and give me that etched, that's the word I was looking for, etched thing going on here. Now I can turn this up and then roughness and do it really shiny if I want, so it gets a little bit more glittery, or whatever. I can change it to metallic so it's even more metallic, so I get something closer to that. True metallic is at 0.9. So if I turn down the repeating, that'll probably help, or the, roughness. There we go. I'm not sure if I like it though. I'm going to come back in the middle here and do something more like this. So I really want to be able to see that in etching, and that works a little bit better. Anyway, so that's how you do that. That's the easiest way, and honestly, it's the cheapest way. I mean, minus the texture extra, it's the cheapest way to add this kind of detail without adding a ton of geometry or heavy normal maps or making it look blurry and stuff. And it's technically not even a decal map, because in decal maps what they do is there's a separate material inside of the engine that you can add to it. Okay, so anyway, that's that. And from that, I'm going to leave it. Now, I would do the same things. Like I said, if I have time, I'll try and do the same things for these pieces here. And then I'll probably put the ring and everything that we see. And I would tweak this forever, by the way. This is, I'm like, if I'm looking at this, that's what I wanted. There's like a pretty good sheen on this, so I might come back, for example, and look at the another thing you want to do is come in here and see how it looks in the real world. Let's turn off that background. I always hated the background. Clear color, thank you. And it looks pretty good. I mean, obviously this is a better renderer than the one we were just using, but there's a lot of things I would do differently. I would add to it. Some normals would help, but more or less, there you go. Have fun, and I will talk to you all later. And if you want something specific, like I said, just text or send a request to the channel, and I'll try and do it. If I can't, I'll let you know. Thanks. Bye.